Hello, hope you guys are doing well. So today we are going to talk a little bit more about our cardboard TVs that we had discussed last week on how to build, and we are adding to them. And this is really fun, but it's also really complicated. So this one is probably geared more towards the older kids and adults out there who want to make this. So we're making a contraption. So I kind of did a lot of engineering over the weekend to kind of figure this out, but it's super cool. So it's to create a background that we can then move. So I know that it's kind of probably going to be a little bit loud, my cardboard rubbing together, but you spin it and then your background moves. And then you can take your little puppet guys or whatever, and you can have them walking along the background. So you can draw whatever you want on the background there. So mine kind of goes from a mountainscape to the woods, and then we start to get some houses in there and then a little city block. So you can have it go on for forever if you want to, but we're going to talk about the little engineering behind this. So I'm going to flip this around. So I've got two tubes on the sides here, and it's kind of like a scroll mechanism. So when you spin it, it then wraps your paper around one side of the scroll, right? So you're seeing all of these drawings going. So these are the drawings that are on the background there. So all I did was tape paper so you can see the seams. I just taped paper together for as long as I wanted it to be. And I can always add to it as well. So I just used toilet paper tubes for this. So if you guys have toilet paper tubes, which I'm sure you guys have, you'll just use those. So I just stacked a couple together. I stacked 3, and then I attached them together with some duct tape. If you want to paint those whenever they're done, you can. And then I used painter's tape to connect the paper tube, because this way I can take that off and keep adding to my paper reel if I want to, so I could make it go on and on. But yeah, we'll talk about the engineering behind these. So like I said, I took toilet paper tubes, stacked them on top of each other, lined them up, taped them around, and then you need to kind of see how tall you can go. I had to cut off some extras here. I used an exacto knife to trim those up. So if you guys have an exacto knife, but you can use scissors too if all you have are scissors. The next thing that it goes on with these tubes is the turning part here. So this is on the top and the bottom. So this is 4 parts that kind of fit together to do these, but I also use a skewer as like an interlocking system. So these are interlocked on here. I've got a tube that fits snugly into this scroll, and then there's little eyelets there, and then these kebab sticks, I cut them up so that way they interlock there, so that way it connects it, so that way it can actually scroll. Okay, so to create those, what I did is I cut 2 tubes in half, and then you're going to cut them down the center, just like that, and then you're just going to fold them until they fit. It can be a little loose, but it can be snug. So you just kind of overlap where you cut it till it fits snugly in there, and then you can interlock it. And I just took duct tape. And duct tape, you don't need tape. Duct tape, you don't need scissors to cut it. It actually kind of makes it a little bit messy if you try to cut it with scissors. But there's lines on there, so you just press down on the side that's still connected to the tube with your thumb and then pull it up. so it rips really nicely. So you'll just tape that seam together. And if you want to tape the seam on the inside as well, just to make sure that it stays, you can do that. So that fits nicely there. And then for the top, I took the solid tube, the one that I haven't cut up yet. I traced it so I knew how wide I could go, and then I wanted to go wider out still. So it's about 1 centimeter or so larger than that, because you want it to be wide enough so you can still turn it. And then I just glued that to there. So that's my cap. Those are my turning caps, and then those slide into there. And then having it connected to your television, then you can see where you need to punch your holes. And I just used the tip of the exacto knife to get that hole punched out, but you're gonna have to take it on and off. The paper, your scroll, you're gonna wait till the very end to add that to it. Okay, so you do those 4 times, you get 4 of these pieces that slide into your 2 sides of your scrolls. So 2 for the top, 2 for the bottom. And then you'll need to create these brackets that go on the top of the television and on the bottom of the television. So those are 2 inches thick, and then there's about 2.5 inches that extend beyond the TV. And that's going to be where your scroll's set. And just like we did with when we traced the tube onto here, you're going to trace the tube onto your bracket part. And you're going to cut wider than the tube, so that way your whole system can just be easily moved around, right? So you can, it's not too tight for you to scroll it. You want it to be slightly loose, so that way it can spin nicely. All right, so that way you can pull it on one end nicely and it won't pull your paper apart, okay? So yeah, that's all you need to do for that. And I just attached that with glue, with some hot glue, and it holds up pretty nicely. So like I said, I used painter's tape. I just used Scotch tape in between my paper, but you tape it on the back so that way it doesn't interrupt your drawings, and you can make them, extend them all beyond however far you want your journey to be. And then I created a little stick puppet guy. It's a little girl actually, but so my stick person can walk along the scene here. Let me fix this interlock here so I can actually scroll it. So this is probably the hardest part. So is once you get those kebab sticks unlocked, it kind of takes a little bit to get it to line back up again. That is my most complicated issue that I have found with this. But once you get it, then you get it. So you definitely want to label which tube interlock goes with which end, because that's kind of difficult if you don't label it, because then you need to figure out which one lines up with which. I think I've got it twisted here. Looks like I need to label just a little bit better. But yeah. So like I said, this took me a while. So this is definitely a project that's going to take you guys a little bit of thought process. But I also kind of worked this out from scratch. I haven't seen anything like this. out there. So I kind of came up with this on my own. So I'm just sharing it with you guys because I can see you guys doing some really great, awesome things with it. So if you guys make one of these and create a little animation with it, there we go, I got it. And create a little animation with it, definitely share it with us because I want to see what you guys make. So yeah, my person can go in there and then they can walk along in the city. You guys can come up with theme songs, come up with stories for your things, and yeah, have a really great time with it. It's a great way to be creative and pass the time. And sorry if that was really loud with the scrolling, but if you guys have any questions, just ask me a question because I can probably clarify things a little bit more if it was a little complicated. But yeah, so the back is still intact. So if you guys watched how we made it, I suggested that you cut that side off, but leave the back intact. And that's why we did that. So that way it just slides nicely through that little opening there. So yeah, share what you guys make, tag the Art Center at Quincy Art Center, and have a really great time creating these awesome cardboard TVs.